Studio Galaxy 473. We're back again with you for the second part of the program. And once again, we apologize today for our late start. It seems to be we had some technical challenges. We on the number to call is 410-3030, and we encourage you to share our program and subscribe to Studio Galaxy. The topic today is the incompetency in the ministers and the ministries. After 2 years in any government, in a 4.5, 5 year cycle, historically, every 4.5 years, your government have to face the polls. But after 2 years, the die is practically cast. After 2 years, the people on the ground will determine whether they're satisfied with the government or not. A year is a long time in politics. So the government could recover. They could make dramatic change and people recognize that the government recover and there is some room the people are satisfied. The National Democratic Congress, these 2 years and what we are saying now should be very important for the National Democratic Congress. They don't have a history of getting a second term. They don't have a history of getting a second term. And in every instance, when you look on the ground, people make the decision whether or not the government makes sense after 2 years. So today we're going to look at the incompetence of the ministers and the ministries. We believe that they were badly wanting. They fall short. They did not get anything particularly right the first time. We want you to share our program, subscribe to our program, and you can make contribution. We will try to read out some of your posts, and we will give you an opportunity to interrupt us at any time. And we have with us...
Give them the numbers.
Yeah, the number to call is 410-3030. And we have with us Master Call on the Galaxy Equalizers. We are the Galaxy Equalizers. And this part of the program is pure politics. Master Call.
Yeah, and we encourage people to engage in the debate. You see, the debate brings out a lot. When you are healthy debate for and against, it is a standard where you learn. So, and as you rightly say, a day in politics is a long time. And we are citizens of this country. So we have the right, based on the Constitution, to scrutinize the actions of the government, to criticize the actions of the government, to offer and advise where we think incompetence is. And 2.5 years on, I think is not too early to call out the shortcomings of the government, senior. So I think that program is a timely one, and I hope we invoke discussions.
And we want to constantly remind people, you don't have to agree with us.
No, you don't have to agree.
This is our view, our opinion, our position. And if you are a strong NDC, it's good for you to participate in the program and perhaps take on what we see or give explanation or clarity. That will be in the best interest of the different ministers and the ministry.
But what we do expect you to disagree and do have a reason and call us stupid and so on. Let we have a healthy debate.
Really, Auntie Julie, we tired here people call us dumb and stupid.
Yeah.
And
so better they try something.
Try something. You don't have to attack us personally, but if you want, it's all right. Go ahead.
What ministry are you looking
Ministry of Education.
Yes.
I think education is the foundation.
Because we all believe, and even the present government, when you hear them speak, they say education is the key to release one from poverty. They say that. They recognize that most of them claim to come from poor parentage. So education is the vehicle to get us out. And they promise plenty, senior, as it relates to education in the campaign before the election. So the expectations of the Grenadian public was high as it relates to the National Democratic Congress and its promises towards education. Now, for us to properly speak to education, we must speak to the minister. And based on his actions, after 2.5 years, it does not seem like he have the appetite for the Ministry of Education. When we say that, case in point, one of the, because the trial, I see burial as a trial or a referendum or speaking of this government. And in burial, with what happened to the education system as it relates to Carrico and Pitimatnik, he failed miserably, senior. In so much as some people believe he took holiday on the doorstep of the reopening of school. When the people of Pitimatnik and Carrico, it was not clear as to what would happen in terms of housing. As you always mention, McDonald College still there on a shift system. You have first unprecedented in this country history, you had demonstration by children from TAMCC. So that tells you something is not right, or it speaks to incompetence when it comes to education and the Ministry of Education, senior. So where do we go from here is the question. Because without it free education, the school feeding program comes under the Ministry of Education, and we know all the chaos and mayhem. And we receive calls from persons daily as to how it is affecting their livelihood, their children, and so on. So when we speak about the incompetence in the Ministry of Education, it's not only our opinion, but there are facts to bear out the argument. As we say, we wish somebody would call with a different view and bring information or facts to debunk what we're saying. But until then, senior, it is concerning, or it should be concerning, to all persons in this country, whether you're NDC or NNP or GULP or anything. Yes, senior.
But I believe the Minister of Education, it is in the interest of the government, after 2 years, to reshuffle that ministry and remove the Minister of Education. The Minister of Education is not up for the job. I don't think he have what it takes. Imagine, I think the strongest one is for a minister to be taking holiday in a disaster. No permanent secretary, no permanent secretary should be permitted to take holiday after burial unless that person was sick. And then they will go on sick leave. Because the manner in which sometimes permanent secretaries are to move to help others in a disaster. Not even senior ministers, technician, technical persons, you give holiday, much less the minister taking holiday. And you don't have the stomach for it. And I think it is in the interest of the NDC party, the interest of the fluency, the performance of the party, in the interest of education, to move the minister. So definitely, Master Carl, I have to agree with you. Now we go to agriculture. Education and food. Agriculture, Master Carl.
The Ministry of Agriculture has yet to do anything of significance for this country since the inception of the National Democratic Congress. The person heading that ministry is not known to have a serious work ethic. And somehow much was not expected. When you go to the foundation of the ministry and when the budget is read, the allocations to the ministry simply covers maybe salaries for persons in that ministry and nothing more. So you don't expect anything more to happen. However, in the best budget, the Prime Minister promised plenty as it relates to agriculture. If you remember, storehouses for or store places for products. He even spoke to all the vehicles to pick fruits. He even spoke to white potatoes and all other niceties. But nothing of that nature has materialized. Then we have burial, the equalizer. And monies was received based on the CREEF arrangement for agriculture and fisheries senior. And there's this cry by farmers that some get or a selective few has received and the majority did not receive. So it was not for the greater good, for the greater number. Now, if we speak or we really mean that agriculture is what it ought to be seen here, it means simply this: when you speak to food security, you speak to agriculture. When you speak to food availability, you speak to agriculture. So let me look at those both things. At present, does the Ministry of Agriculture aid and abet in food availability? Because of food is not readily available, the prices is high senior. We have in price gouging. When you people say they can buy banana $4 a pound and so on. How this government intend to assist in food availability and the price of food senior. Then you talk about food security has become or is or should be a national security issue. Do we have food security here? Because food security starts with planting material security. Do we have seeds security? Do we have input security? What has this government done to improve or to make better or to make different what was existing? Because they had all remedies for every maladies. But it is sad that these remedies has not visited the Ministry of Agriculture. You speak to soursop farmers. You speak to sending home of the persons and them who used to treat with pest. And the list goes on. It seems like this government don't care about agriculture. And then in recent times, senior, you hear the Prime Minister say he's the one to sell and he has no business to do in agriculture. Because his track record in agriculture, senior, he had some lands and he planted coconuts. And then he said this thing not making sense. So in his mindset, agriculture is not making sense. But to do have a Ministry of Agriculture might not be politically correct, so he perseveres or he persists with a Ministry of Agriculture. But in his mind, deep down, agriculture is not something that making sense. So we don't expect much as it relates to the Ministry of Agriculture. And the incompetence of the person in charge of the ministry speaks volumes. What improvement has happened in agriculture in the last 2.5 years, senior? Let's be frank. Let me hear you, senior.
Well, this is one of the challenges. The government started up in agriculture with a on shaky ground. That is why they appointed the advisory leader. And they had about 10 or 12 persons to advise the Minister of Agriculture. to advise the minister in agriculture. And the minister in agriculture was from agriculture. And that advisory lead didn't seem to come up with anything. Then you had the decision by the government to seriously marginalize or get rid of MNIB marketing board. And then, as you say, we had the plan with seaweed to say to trap seaweed and the chucks to pick um, mango, to the chucks to pick mango and sugar apple and etc. But even that, the government, the labor support, the first labor support scheme they had was a joke. It wasn't. I think it was aborted. And then you hear people encouraging people to plant white potato, and then the prime minister come up to plant black pepper
And then our road by the roadside.
and to plant our root body. These things look jokey, like a Brian Nancy little kind of story. Then we see the challenge the farmers had to get loan from the GDB bank. The government seems to have flaunt the law, and people in the NDC and top echelons of the NDC, directors and ministers, line up for the loan. Even the income support after burial that farmers welcome, $4,000 if you $4,500 if you have $5,000 and less. If
5 acres.
you have 5 acres of land, if you have over 5 acres of land, $9,000. Two categories. They say it is a one-off income support. It would not be paid by check. You have to have an account in the bank. All the farmer needed to do was to establish how much land that he has, provide a farmer's registration card,
And
a
bank details.
bank account number, and his NIS number. Then, irrespective of the fact that farmers argued about the bank account and they should pay with check, government was emphatic, no check. Then you hear government seems to handpick individuals that are sympathetic to them and give them check. Some of the individuals I saw that the government had who they took pictures of was definitely some supporters of the NDC. And they spoke in glowing terms about the check. There are people with more than 5 acres of land that they did not give the $9,000. They give them $4,500. And some of these people that so far are it seems that it appears they are not very supportive of the government. And when people thought they would have get this money already, government is so where agriculture is concerned, the government has not performed well.
And there's this small matter, senior, of the manner in which the check was handed out, like in a grandstanding way, where ministers has to come
To intimidate
the people.
individuals. It's definitely unacceptable. Then we saw the source up exporters, about 10, 12, 13 of them. Over 2 years plus, the Ministry of Agriculture refused to have a meeting with these exporters.
Refuse to dialogue.
The government closed down the pest management unit that was controlling the Croton scale insect. Well, that has spread significantly. They fired 10 or 12 persons from it, closed it down. After much lobbying, they brought it back with 3 or 4 persons. Definitely, they're not in a position. Government has done nothing to improve the husbandry practice and pollination in Soursop. So, where agriculture is concerned, the only thing the government has done, and the farmers welcome it and applaud it, is the income support and they have not done it right. They have not got it right. So where agriculture is concerned, government have to make some serious effort to make an about turn.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, they're in trouble.
The incompetence continues.
Master Carl, another important one is the Ministry of Housing.
Wow. Now, it goes back to policy and expectations in here. We must start there before we discuss it. During the election campaign, the Prime Minister of Grenada, Carriacou Petit Martin, the holder of the office of Prime Minister, stated in relation to the Chinese house, it was criminal that the NNP did not give out the houses. Senior. So a lot of person took it to mean that he'd have been a caring person. Lo and behold, is the worst thing that happened to housing in Grenada because you had 500 houses for every parish every year. You had 500 climate resilient houses. You hear 500 build back better houses. And we had how much Chinese houses. So that means the housing situation, if it was done as the Prime Minister said, we should not have a housing problem in Grenada right now. The Minister of Housing, and the strange thing, we just spoke to Agriculture and the Minister. And I think the Minister in Agriculture now maybe was the senior minister in Housing. I stand corrected. And then Miss Gloria Thomas was promoted to full minister. And the incompetence in housing continues. Now, we used to speak about housing, and persons used to believe, oh, they playing politics. And then Beryl came, and the place opened like book, and everybody saw the policy of this government in housing, as you listen to the people in Carriacou and Petit Martin. So, a lot of money came to the CRIF, and you hear how much money that was given to the MIT ministry, who, in my view, does not have the expertise to properly run a housing program because you have the National Housing Authority and you have the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure. But MIT was given the lead, and we're hearing all kind of stories since that thing happened, senior. But we have not seen the empirical evidence to show that anything much has been done rehousing. And the minister of housing to me is non-existent. Most time you hear anything about housing is either the MIT minister or the prime minister that speaks to it. So what has happened to the housing minister on the road to Damascus, I don't know. What's your take on that, senior?
Definitely, housing is one of the shocker because particularly for the people in Carriacou,
Mm-hmm.
they have been badly bruised, battered, mauled, and traumatized as a result of the 80 what the amount of damage that burial to the housing. And one would thought government would act expeditiously because within 14 days, government had over $100 million. And government could have buy $10.5 million worth of material and assist people whose roof was damaged or whose house was partially damaged. Assist them with some material to fix back the house. Those people who was completely destroyed, then is another matter.
Mm-hmm.
And government have 100 housing unit in Carriacou that was built for the low income people in Carriacou. I think 90 of those units was already handed over to people in Carriacou. The government rescinded the letter and bluntly refused to give the people the house. This one is so traumatic, devastating, and hard.
And to add insult to injury, senior, I think yesterday or day before one of the days, you see somebody houses they speak to build back better. was being given to persons and still the Chinese houses remain vacant. So the question is it true that the Chinese houses already has ownership or they are sold to persons? So the question begs, is any Nigerian a holder of one of those Chinese houses?
Well,
Because I don't understand with all that he said about housing, all that the critics been saying about the Chinese housing and no move is being made. What is going on, senior?
that have to be an abomination. It has to be practically sacrilege. It has to be one of the worst crime that has been committed against people of the lower income group in our Grenada. You know, the psychological uh, torture, shock, because people expected those houses. The houses was built for people in low income. Some people were given the houses. You take back the key from them. The police was called to prevent people from sheltering in them.
Yes.
I don't
In the hour of need.
I have heard about, I don't know what would cause Grenadian, and it frightens me. It practically frightens me that distinguished and honorable Grenadians
Patriotic.
sit and watch these crime. It's a crime. It's an economic crime.
It is a
It
crime
is
against
robbery with
humanity.
violence. It is vulgarity of the worst kind
Terrorism.
that you practice against the poor of the poor. You insult them, you embarrass them, you take back the key from them, and you tell them these things are condominiums. They're not good for it because they are classless people. They're not in the social status that they could get these kind of quality houses.
And the foundation of those
And then
houses
you take
was for low income people.
and you take these very houses and give it to people who in a better financial position.
The economic situation is better.
This is one of the worst crimes, I believe, done by any politician in Grenada.
In the region.
This one is so difficult for me to stomach that I don't know. I don't know how a lot of people who claim they are distinguished people could watch people in the eyes. And it tells you the level of hate that some people in the higher income bracket have for people in the lower income bracket. How could a minister of housing agree to take the houses for the people in the lower income house that it was built for? Take it away from them. They was given keys. You take the key away from them. You rescind the letter. A disaster pass. The people are left topless in some cases, roofless in some cases. The house has been decorated, living, and then you refuse to give them and the houses are there. But you say these houses are for some more important people from the diaspora. I think this is a crime. So where houses is concerned, the Minister of Housing shouldn't be able to. I would just say that the Minister of Housing have failed badly.
No, but what saddens me, senior, the Minister of Housing is a woman. That speaks volumes.
Well, if you are the Minister of Housing, you have to take the blame. It makes no sense that you consider yourself as the Minister of Housing and say you don't know or you don't matter. That means you are complicit in it. It makes no sense. You are the one that have to take the blame because it falls under your department. So where housing is concerned, I don't know if this government could recover. The government has a lot of money And what we hear in the level of corruption, the level of kickbacks that people are giving. The government had a policy to bring volunteers to Carriacou. And I understand while they were bringing volunteers to Carriacou, they had some NDC people that were paid
Handsomely.
handsomely. Handsomely, you know. They were paid while others that went to volunteer were not paid.
Yeah, man, boasting how much money they make.
I hear a man tell me, I tell him, please, because that individual got some people to go up. When he told me how much money he get, I tell him, please, don't say it wrong the other people.
They go vex.
Because I say, remember, you went, you use your clout and your skills, and you got them to volunteer to go.
But you get in the bag.
This individual was a strong NDC. Some of the people he got to go up was an NNP. But we encourage people to go and people want to help. So he said to me he was shocked because he did not expect to get money. So they decided to pay, the NDC paid some of the top NDC coordinators, or strong supporters, or agitators, or who were canvassing. But he did not pay the others. The man was so shocked. He told me he wanted to give them some money. I said, well, they know you as a broken man. And I was left dumbfounded.
Speechless.
That very few times in life that I'm dumbfounded. But that one, the man came to me. He said he never expect to get money.
No, when I speak to persons who think on the level and the kind of money they say they get up there, they man them do have to work.
And you know, he didn't go back on the program. You
No,
know?
he can't chance no
couldn't.
good
He
with
tell
him.
me he can't go back on the program. And he can't give them the money
Because they're
going to feel that he cooked them.
Yeah, they go still feel they don't get enough.
But he never expected to get money. So the NDC paid some of the strong canvassers, agitators, coordinators, supporters, what name you want to give them. But they refused to pay the other people they asked to volunteer. And they kill volunteerism.
Yeah, but as we on the Ministry of Housing, Social Affairs is attached to that ministry, so the same minister.
Sometimes when
minister.
Sometimes when you speak about housing, like it does something to you.
Yeah.
It brings out so much emotion.
But
that
but look at Social Affairs Senior and the 150. The same minister.
Yes.
And what troubles me, you know, I'm not justifying it, Senior. But if it was a male, or I say job okay.
Yeah.
But a woman she cannot extricate herself from any blame. She cannot advance no excuse. Her maternal instinct should tell her what this thing is not right. To just watch people who need. Because there is no excuse. Because we just spoke to the paying people to go out Carriacou. You're hearing ministers who took money in GDB, close to 3 million, maybe pay it off already. You're hearing who entered unemployed could have $600,000 in their account. And the measly 150 after the Prime Minister told the nation the money was not enough. We should start at 650. And he quantified that by saying, and that is why I speaking of the to the gender of the minister. He said, if they care about you, they should give 650. If they really love you, they should give 650. But we have yet to see 650. So, Senior, this is past incompetence. This is mischief.
I remember when some people lost their work as caregivers. They lost their work as caregivers. And one communicated to the parliamentary representative. And I mean, I saw women shed tears, and beg her to intervene on their behalf. And she did. She did intervene. You know what was sad? One of the girls that was called to ask her to inform the others to come back to work because they was fired after the payday. You know. So they were working 2, 3, 4 days and they were fired. But they say, tell them to come back, but they decide to give you back. So the contact they had to the sister to go and tell the others to come back.
But that one not getting
But
it.
they tell her they can't bring you back. But she tell them it's all right. Because she say one or two of them worse than her. And because she was the coordinator, some of them was coming. So she went to them and asked them to come back. And she tell them they mustn't say nothing about as if there is NNP.
No, just
they
go
must
to
stay
work.
quiet. But they told one of them, you're 59 years, so we won't tell you nothing. And they tell the next one she walking on ice. Well, they get rid of two of them before they threaten it. But the one that was 59 years, they say, well, don't worry, you're 59. And before she birthday reach on 59,
Yes.
they got rid of her. You know, these things bring about a lot of sadness in you. Sometimes it's difficult. It's difficult to talk about these situations. And then you have two women involved. Two women was involved. So for the Ministry of Housing and Social Affairs, I don't know if the government could recover from that.
It's difficult.
It's difficult. I know they have a lot of money, and I know they're having fun.
And we know they go spend money.
They're spending money, they have contract, and by that time, most of these people will turn millionaire.
Yeah.
Because if after
They
2 years,
they go continue to drink rum
one
from the
minister
calabash.
have over 600,000 in her bank account,
Yeah.
and one minister pay out $3
Find something.
million. And then we have those who was going around with accountability, transparency, and good governance
And morality.
around the neck as a gallard. You don't have to have proof of that, you know. If you hear us say that as bold and as loud, and we dare
them to
people to challenge us, should be of concern. But I always say housing and social affairs brings me a little bit, it makes me emotional.
You call that it
makes
hits right home.
Touchy. Because I know that the people in the community, I know about Tilita and she struggles.
Because shelter is a basic need of mankind.
And I understand the cry. I remember Tilita have she's son who is terrible. But she say, I have the greatest love for him. Because I remember when he and his sister wholly galvanized over the fire for me to cook for the children that was crying. She take a whip to beat them. They say, Mommy, don't beat them. Because she tell them, wait for when the rain fall, but they crying.
Yeah.
She said, Mommy, don't beat them. So they wholly galvanize. They light the fire and they wholly galvanize over the fire. And she later cooking. And the children in the rain waiting for the food to cook for the others to eat. And this, for you to hear it from me is a joke. You should hear it from her. But Master Carl, Foreign Affairs.
Who is the Minister of Foreign Affairs?
Well, obviously,
in your view,
the Minister of Foreign Affairs is Joseph Andal. He has been appointed.
On paper.
Well, he has been appointed the Minister of Foreign. Even though somebody
took the oath.
He took the oath and is the Minister of Foreign Affairs. And like the Minister of Housing, you can say Is somebody else that doing it? He is the Minister of Foreign
He
Affairs.
must take responsibility ultimately. However, he has to step up or step out. That's the choice he has. Because with all the pronouncement in recent times, senior, it seems to me that the that Mr. Deacon Mitchell has assumed the role of the foreign minister, or he's the acting minister of foreign affairs, because we have not heard or seen the foreign affairs minister in action in a long time. And I got that feeling since the Samoa agreement, senior, when the foreign affairs minister spoke to the sovereignty of this country, and then the prime minister threw some cold water on it and say morality is personal. And then the actions since the independence celebration came, and we have credible information where the foreign affairs minister had to introduce the Ghanaian president, and that didn't happen. And then we have this big trip to Nigeria, gas, oil, gas. We don't hear nothing now, the foreign minister. So the relationship between Grenada and other countries, because the CBI is one, and I don't think the foreign minister is getting any slice of the cake as it relates to the CBI. And I think maybe, in my view, a lot of things might be going on which you don't want him to be privy to. So most of the trips where the foreign minister ought to be part of, or the main seller, he's left home to lick his wounds. What say you, senior?
Well, it is so sad and unfortunate because if you use the foreign minister, use the foreign minister. You have the ambassador to the diaspora. The foreign minister must be the one to whom this individual directly report. And the ambassador to the diaspora, who is Mr. Forrester, and Mr. Forrester is qualified to hold the job. But the Mr. Forrester is more a strong agent of the National Democratic Party. And he is unable to perform that job because he carries the cap of the NDC. He is the chief NDC fundraising individual in the diaspora, we understand. In addition to that, Mr. Forrester is also runs a program for the NDC. And even in the diaspora, we are hearing some of the chapters have so much problems. So obviously, the Minister of Foreign Affairs is getting money under false pretense. He's been paid for the job of foreign affairs, but he's incompetent, he's incapable, he's unable to do the job. I don't know if the fact that the Prime Minister believes he is the one to do foreign affairs, he is the face of the government with foreign affairs is concerned, has contributed to the emasculation of the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
But that brings us back to an important juncture, senior. The Prime Minister was sold to the Grenadian public as a man having loads of contacts and a deep pocket. We also heard at the time the National Democratic Congress economic reality was nothing to shout about. We also heard that it was believed that the Prime Minister paid out the owing or the debt of the National Democratic Congress. But the question is, and we should ask, because you always ask the question, who sent him or who controls the foreign policy of Grenada? the question we must ask based on what the Prime Minister says. When you see strange action and baffling ones, find out who paid for the rally and the big fete. I say that to make the point. Who paid or who gave the Prime Minister the money to buy over NDC? That is something we need to look into. And is that person or persons or group calling the foreign policy shots right now, senior?
Then why is it the Prime Minister from day one did not take the Ministry of Foreign Affairs?
Mm-hmm.
Because the Prime Minister is the one giving posts. He could take any post he wants.
Yes.
The Prime Minister travels more than any other minister. The Prime Minister
Travel king.
publicly declared that he is the one to sell Grenada. He is the one to face Grenada.
And he's the one people
he is the
should
one
know.
to interface with other people. So why is it the Prime Minister use the Minister of Foreign Affairs? You see, the Minister of Foreign Affairs is over 18 years. He's a well-educated man. I think he speaks more than one language, 2 or 3 languages. The Minister of Foreign Affairs on paper is not a fool. So why he was so easily emasculated? And it appears now the Minister of Foreign Affairs is so domesticated that he's becoming a public ridicule. Why the Prime Minister did not take the post of Foreign Affairs? Why did he give it? Did somewhere along the line the Minister of Foreign Affairs got compromised?
But, senior, there's the small matter of the Prime Minister informing the nation that when persons are hungry mouth and beggy, they could be bought.
So you mean the Minister of Foreign Affairs?
Well, we have to think in those terms.
But he was an educated man who always working.
No, I don't think he was always working.
Well,
So I don't know if. So we have to look at maybe what his economic
have an
reality
attitude.
was.
If a man have a master's degree and he cannot find a job, I would not readily employ him. This means the man doing good.
Yeah, well, maybe the Prime Minister has recognized that on the road
Maybe
to
the
Damascus.
Prime Minister recognized how incompetent and stupid the minister was. He was just functioning under false pretense. And this man has been used, but why make him a public ridicule? What is in it
Maybe
for Dick Mitchell as the Prime Minister to make Joseph Andal a public ridicule? Because that is what you're doing to the individual.
like he castrate him.
He has been emasculated and properly domesticated for public ridicule. The man represents a constituency. And his constituency have to have some measure of regards and respect. You have him in foreign affairs. You practically insulting the individual. The Prime Minister went in Nigeria with an advisor. The advisor have no track record in foreign affairs. By the time the Prime Minister come out in Nigeria, maybe the Prime Minister see Nigeria chief this and chief that.
Mm-hmm.
The man was introduced in Nigeria as an advisor to the Prime Minister.
Mm-hmm.
On the plane, the Prime Minister changed him to a chief.
Mm-hmm. Chief of staff.
Maybe he made
On
chief
the plane, he make him a deputy.
and chief Bubumbu. So he say he want a chief.
And the great Obnogo, you might see.
So he chief Lahong. Something is wrong. Then how the foreign minister could sit on say, I want to be crying.
You have to be.
I've not seen his face a long time. He hiding from the public.
Yeah.
Or the favorite journalists like Dr. Bob and the photogenic one hiding from him.
The doctor of
Some hiding
journalism.
taking place.
Yeah. They don't want to expose him to the doctor of journalism and the photogenic one.
How could that be? You're making Grenadian look as a laughable country.
As a joke.
How could you reduce your foreign minister to scrap like that? What wrong he has done you?
Because if he has done anything wrong, in no uncertain terms, the Prime Minister informed the nation that he lost
Confidence in
confidence
Lacrat.
in Lacret, so he fired him.
Because the Prime
So he
Minister,
seemed so by his action, he don't have no confidence in
it
Joseph
seems
and
as
all.
though he punishing Joseph Andal.
Like Joseph commit some scenes we don't know.
The man, the Prime Minister at one stage, this man look as if he was the favorite of the Prime Minister. You saw how he
They
was
fixing his tie.
palpating that which was around his neck.
Yes.
Yes, scholar, welcome. Yes, scholar, welcome.
Yes, caller.
My brother Francis,
Yes, right ahead.
how are you? How are you?
Great man, you're live with us on the program.
Yeah.
Right ahead.
Oh, sorry, sorry. They're not interrupting you then.
No, you're not
Sorry, sorry.
interrupt. You're live on the program Studio Galaxy 473. You didn't want to be live.
Okay, okay.
Well, you got to call me back
Pardon
then.
me?
You didn't want to be
Yeah, I'll call
live
you
on the
back.
program.
Sorry.
All right.
No, well, it's
Okay. You call me back. I'll call you then. Okay. Yes, so this caller didn't want to get called. 410-3030 is the program for the number for the program. So it is unfortunate and sad. And we will have to continue this discourse on the foreign minister, Joseph Andal. I think it is unacceptable for him to continue as a minister of foreign affairs. I believe it might be a good thing to transfer him to the Minister of Education to salvage some level of decency. No human being, no human being should be treated with such contempt, disrespect. The people have family. People are parliamentary representative of a constituency. Even though you have the power, Mr. Prime Minister, don't destroy individuals. We believe you are destroying Joseph Andal. You are publicly reducing him to scrap. Massacre, MIT, Ministry of Implementation and Transformation, MIT. And that ministry seems to be recognized as one of the top ministry for the Prime Minister.
Top
Remember,
ministry.
they gave the money for housing was given to that ministry. This
Money for
minister
infrastructure.
for infrastructure to that ministry. This minister seems to be wielding a lot of power in education.
Yes.
This minister seems to have benefit immensely from the flaunting of the law in the bank.
I think he even acted as Minister of Health.
And we acted as minister of health. And we are hearing now that this minister moved from bankruptcy to wiping out a $3 million loan. And it seems and appears that the favorite journalist, doctor of journalism, and the photogenic one is also hiding
From that gentleman.
from that man. See, he seems to be a super minister. Massacre, MIT. Caller, you can give us a call and speak about it. We're speaking about the what our opinion on the different ministries, and we on MIT. MIT been giving over 15 million for housing.
Yeah, as you coined it one time, senior, the Ministry of Mischief. The Ministry of Take It. And we have to start with the line minister, senior. He told the nation that he had no original ideas. Anything he put forward is the idea of somebody else, that is his words. He told the nation he could have been in jail. And that is his word, senior. So the question is, why does the Prime Minister have so much confidence in the MIT minister? Or is he the minister extraordinaire? There was a post in Trinidad with A.N.R. Robinson. He didn't have a particular ministry, but he was free to roam every other ministry. So are we seeing that same powers, but without the name? And with all the allegations, well, not allegation, the GDB money, not allegation, it is a fact, which they are trying to justify. It's sad that most of the monies from the CRIF arrangement it has passed through that particular ministry. Now, do we believe that this ministry had the capability to carry out the task for the monies given? No. But there's something going on with the Prime Minister and that particular minister, senior. We have 5 minutes, senior. What say you?
Well, definitely, I will only deal with the part of mobilization.
Mm-hmm.
The Ministry of Mobilization, the Department of Mobilization, is set up for political mischief.
And vengeance.
I take the strongest objection, and there are a number of so-called distinguished Grenadians that I have respect for, but not much. I have respect for them, but not much. Because I believe it is unacceptable. I expected the trade union in particular to object to mobilization in MIT. In the communist world, in socialist countries, in one-party states, you have mobilization, mass organization to go on and identify who do not support you, to jail people. I think Selwyn Strachan was responsible for mobilization under Maurice Bishop. And over 3,000 people went to prison. And when we say 3,000 people went to prison, that is those that Maurice Bishop signed the order.
Yeah.
You had an additional 2,000 people that was in jail that Bishop did not sign order for.
They just end up
And
in
if
jail.
you have any doubt when we speak, ask Tillman Thomas. He was the human rights lawyer, and he ended up in jail too. So there is absolutely no need for mobilization. And mobilization is for political mischief. That this is the group.
Political purposes. That is why you get all the money.
This is the group that say who are the volunteers in Carriacou that must get paid.
Yes.
And who mustn't get paid.
They must pay people.
Who are the individuals that would get check, that they call out the name to get check, and who wouldn't get check? Who are the farmers who over $5,000 that would get paid $4,500 rather than $9,000? That ministry is for political mischief. Who is going to get scholarship and who won't get? Who will be threatened and who wouldn't? That is the group that is responsible for that. But Master Carl, we must go to information as time runs out. And information falls squarely under the Prime Minister's ministry.
Because all he told the nation on a need to know basis. And as we say, senior, on a need to know basis leaves the room for speculation. And the Prime Minister has not seen the importance of informing the nation. He feels what he wants the nation to know, the nation should know. Case in point, the oil situation. Had it not been for the Nigerian outlet, senior, all know his acolytes and cronies would have still calling and say oil and gas. And that is how he feels comfortable. And that is it. So dictators believe, senior. What's your take?
Well, Deacon, I have come to the conclusion that Deacon has told more lies than all other political leaders that passed Grenada since 1967. Deacon is arrogant, is more disrespectful to the people around him. We just spoke about the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the manner in which he treats the Minister of Foreign Affairs. And we have stories about others. Deacon the Prime Minister of Grenada, who is Minister of Information, has been associated with more bribery than any other leader that ever passed in Grenada. We heard about bribery of the gracious offer, about a sweet spot, about $160,000. We hear about gifts being received in excess of 30,000. We heard about hotel bills being paid for ministers after they get a podium. They run up the hotel bill. We have heard so much acts of corruption, millions of dollars being provided from housing to MIT, laws being flunked, the massive corruption taking place in National Lottery, that we come to the conclusion that the directors of National Lottery must join the directors of the GDB Bank and go.
And the
The
director,
Prime Minister won't fire.
gravel and concrete.
The Prime Minister is corrupt. So all you please go. And the Prime Minister have a policy that information is given on a need-to-know basis. Two of the first journalists that should object to that is same the doctor of journalism and the photogenic one. That is why Malcolm X pointed out the media could make an innocent man guilty and a guilty man innocent. The Prime Minister is responsible for information and is deliberately withholding information from the public. And he seems to threaten his own ministers because they seem to be muzzled. One minister say, well, I didn't come here for that. I forgot me computer, a little bag I have here. I have the information. The people are muzzled in the public, and it's an embarrassment. So, as we continue, and sometimes when you speak about these things, time runs fast. We can't go to all the other ministries.
All things equal next week,
We could continue in that process. And we want to thank all those who listen to our program. We encourage you to subscribe to our program. Subscribe to our program so once we come on the air, you will hear.
And participate,
once we come.
even though they have a dissenting view.
Participate. You don't have to agree with us. And you could write some of your posts, even after you could write your posts, and we'll read them out. And we particularly will look at posts that are against what we see. Challenge us. If you don't agree what we say about Joseph Andal, challenge us. Come up with your views and position. We believe this individual has been emasculated to the point of domestication. So we want to thank you very much. And once again, we want to thank our technical operator and all those who participate in our program today. We are the Galaxy Equalizers, and we're back with you again on Saturday for another opportunity for the Galaxy Equalizers to interact with you. Thank you very much. We're back and welcome to Studio Galaxy 473 in Confer. And this is the second part of our Saturday program. And you are with the Galaxy Equalizers, Master Call, and Francis Spear. And the topic we're discussing today is the negative impact and consequences of the NDC policy in our society. We believe it is very important because we notice some different policies of the National Democratic Congress that we believe will have serious consequences in the future and could take years for us to understand the policy or move away from those policies. So today we're going to look at it. Remember, the number to call is 410 3030. We always welcome your call, and you can write your contributions and we will read them if we get a chance. We on YouTube. We encourage you to subscribe to Studio Galaxy. Subscribe to the program, like it, and share it. We are still the new kids on the block. Today we have with us in our program Master Call. And Master Call, we are concerned about the negative impact and consequences of the NDC policy on the society. A lot of them. But the first one, we are worried. We are baffled. We perplexed. We don't understand how a political party in Grenada could be propagating classism. The action taken by the NDC is directly promoting classism, the fracture in the society. If you listen to the language of some of the top leaders of the NDC, definitely, clearly, they partition in the country based upon social class. Massacre. What
Well,
do you think would be the negative impact of this policy? And I say it's a new policy because we have fought against that with 1974, Gary, even during the revolution was more of ideology. But now it seems that this present government is again propagating classism.
Senior, good. Thanks for having me. And like you say, we welcome calls, even if the callers do not agree with our narrative. We welcome the debate and the discussion. So feel free, anybody could call. You speak to the policies and the adverse effect the policies of this government could have on the population. And it is not only about persons or how they treat people, because even the policy of how they handle the economy presently has repercussions in terms of we now receiving less grants. So that is one of the negatives of the policies of this government. You speak to classism and the promotion of classism by labeling some in the society classless, beggy, hungry mouth, and so on, which does not augurs well for national unity, senior. But before we get into the meat of the discussion, I just want to run that by senior corruption. Because it is believed that this government has a policy of corruption or corrupting persons. And the corruption index, Grenada score 53 out of 100. And that was reported by Transparency International. So not me and you what make that up, senior. But what is interesting to note with all of the discussion that is going on presently, the topical discussions about corruption and oil and so on, when the Prime Minister was asked by by the photogenic one senior, one of his friends, about corruption, instead the Prime Minister denied corruption. He went on the attack, and say some people has no moral authority to talk about corruption. And then we hearing about the analogy about kettle telling born panic black and all kind of thing. So the policy of this government is not to treat with issues. And as they say in the beginning, senior, on a need to know basis, and this policy is leading to a lot of speculation. And it augurs not right in moving forward for nation building and unity. And I don't know if it is a sinister plot or a well organized plot, as you mentioned some time ago, if it's a plot that was formulated in the lab to use those innuendos to create a state of anarchy, man against man. How do you say a dog eat dog wall? And most of the policies we believe by this present administration is not helping. Because even we spoke one time about the expectations of politicians or what the population expect. And the Prime Minister outlaid it all. He say, if you beggy and you hungry mouth, you can't be politician. So what it means, people's economic reality that is not great is automatically censored from being politicians. And that policy does not go well for persons contributing to nation building on a whole scene. And it is a bad sign. And we implore, or we ask, or we beseech this government to turn away from those policies, the very policy spoken about in the general election campaign of transparency is so sadly lacking, senior, that the Prime Minister himself said we only campaign on transparency. But the real policy of this government is restorative justice, which is mischief, which is corruption, which is taking advantage of, which is terrorizing the persons whose economic reality is not great, senior. What say you?
Well, definitely, you see, when the government promote classism in a small country like ours, and Grenadians have to remember when Derek Walcott, that writer from St. Lucia, came to Grenada, he was taken aback at how marked the class structure was in Grenada, and it was different from Trinidad and Jamaica and other countries. You have situations where people living in the same community, in the same home, come from the same school with you, but they believe you are in a lower class than them. And over the years, succeeding government fight this mentality in our country. But if the government establish, if the government is permitted to re-establish the class structure in our country, it could have serious consequences, particularly if it get entrenched in our schools. Because some teachers, some stakeholders, some people in academia, our intelligentsia could well believe because they are highly sophisticated, they're in a better class than you. They're in a different class. And they would not do justice to the children that they consider as classless. In yesteryear, you had issue of color. This person have a dark skin. You have big nose, thick hair, and kinky hair.
Big lip.
Big lip, and you're black as coals. They say you're black as coals. You're like a tar baby.
You black like a new cow chain.
Yes, some people cry out that it was not given permission to do common entrance because they had to choose the fairer child.
Yeah.
In sports, they choose the fairer child.
Insularity.
There are records of children getting 30 and 40 lashes. They say if they bleed, they bleed.
Mm-hmm.
They would beat the children and they say, tan his hide. Tan his hide. So you're back
And that was for the black children.
for the black children. They didn't say beat fair children. They said tan his hide. They used to hobble the girls, pull the skirt in front of the leg, and beat them in the back. Nobody cared because they say drain the bad blood. This was the language that was used. Drain the bad blood from them. There are some villages in Grenada, villages like Montrich, Paul's, Dunfermline. They was treated with contempt. You had River Road and Tempe.
Mm-hmm.
So Tempe people were treated better than River Road people. Most of the people in Dabo
Yeah.
and other areas was country people that went down in town and lived. And they squatted on land.
But what?
So they were not treated the same way as those people they believe was in higher class.
But that is happening even now.
Well, now, after we fought that years, and we seem to have gotten that to be more, there seems to have more changes, this government is re-establishing class structure. This is, for me, that is the saddest story about this government. They're re-establishing class structure. If you were not a victim of the class structure, it will be difficult for them to understand.
That you see, that happens to a lot of people. When you have those discussions, they tend to say they ain't seeing it.
They shy away from it.
Yeah.
When you was to school, it was clear.
Because even in the politics of Grenada, senior, those so-called browning politicians always get an easier pass than the charcoal politician.
Yeah. Well, the first person that with black skin that work in the bank, people take bus trip
To go and see.
to go and see a man working in the bank that black. And it was as a direct result of the intervention of Eric Geary.
Yeah.
I think the individual was either from Montrich or Snail Hall. I understand that person is still alive.
You must try to find out.
First person to work in the bank. First black skinned person. I understand after they did the interview with the individual, they couldn't help speaking about how well intelligent and educated and well mannered this individual was. They're sorry that he was black. And that is the reason Eric Geary heard about it and intervened and forced the bank to employ. And other black people in Grenada went in the bank to peep and see if it's true that a black man could work in the bank.
Dark skin.
We have come a long way. During the revolution, Maurice Bishop, based upon ideology, he sent the children from the patriotic bourgeois to study medicine, engineers, agriculture scientists. He sent the children from the proletariats to study politics, mass communication, propaganda destabilization, because he did not want the children from the patriotic bourgeois to come back and lead the government.
Yeah.
He wanted the children from the proletariats.
To be
It
the
so happened
politicians.
the revolution collapsed. And the professionals end up still having more weight than the children of the proletariats.
Definitely.
But Maurice Bishop decided he was not going to train some Grenadians because their parents was petty bourgeoisie. but the parents was not considered as patriotic
Patriotic.
bourgeois. When Derek Walcott spoke about Grenada, the class system in Grenada was more marked and more unique and more different.
But he was surprised, you know.
He was surprised than any other. So the fact that Deacon come from Cocoa Straw children, that is the terminology they used to call us.
Yeah.
Cocoa Straw children,
Cocoa straw.
estate children, you know, illiterates. But
So-
Deacon now is promoting intellectual classism.
And even people like the fractious motivational speakers and them, they
Yeah.
came from the same thing.
Yes, but they,
But they
all,
are But they are the ones
promoting.
the
They seems
classism.
to have mastered English, they claim, and they swallow the grammar book, and they speak to people who they perceive to be of lower rank with contempt,
And they acquire the taste for the finer things.
and acquire the taste of the fine arts. So Deacon have formed himself with this group and other agents of hate, and he used it to propagate classism. What frightens me the most is the amount of Grenadians that's silent
Yep. Very odd.
because they believe now is an opportunity for them to put a division
And,
based upon the certification.
and most of the persons who are silent has only become silent in the last 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Before, we used to always hear them speak on issues, and even me used to believe they were genuine in championing the cause of the less fortunate.
They kind of get the opportunity of they seem to be attracted by the class. Could you imagine? And I've asked this question 1,000 times and intend to ask it 1,000 more. That a politician endorses that some villages are considered as classless village, and that politician is still hailed in the political arena in Grenada.
Mm-hmm.
It means that a lot of Grenadians, because of the certification or because of the belief of the intellectual acumen, they see themselves in a different class.
But even when you meet a lot of persons of that ilk, senior, and you engage them in discussions of on national issues, either A, they call you stupid, or B, they tell you I thought better of you.
Yeah. A man like you.
I thought better of you.
Because they believe you're supposed to have a briefcase or certificate
Yeah.
too. So you should not be speaking like that.
And that baffles me. Because when this present government was the first in parliament, the Speaker of the House gave everybody an opportunity to speak. And they all claim poorness and humble beginning. They all man jack, hang the jacket on poor people and poor people children. But the next day, they start a serious assault on poor people and poor people children. And not only act the words towards you, or the things they say to you is to beat you down and to make you lose your self-esteem and to make you feel you don't have part in the development of this country. And that what makes the policy something bad. See?
Well, definitely it's bad because they ride on the back of the poor and now they treat them with contempt. And we see that in the community. This new classism is going to kill voluntarism.
It will.
It's going to contribute to the intelligentsia distancing themselves from community groups and other voluntary groups
Definitely.
because they're in a different status. It could cause serious social decadence.
And a
Because if in our school
social
house,
divide also.
our teachers believe they're in a different social class. And our teachers are the most educated people in Grenada, the most well generally educated. You have the lawyers who are in the legal area. We have doctors in the medical field. But teachers could say we are the most generally well educated
And most influential
and most
sector.
influential sector. So if they start to practice this classism in the schoolhouse, it's going to cause more fracture.
Because they could make a child feel inferior.
Of course. I remember a teacher, a principal of a school once, telling a young man in an assembly, every time I watch your mother, I don't want to eat smoker. There was a condition that affected a few people in the community, and they had a lot of ulcers on their face. And I don't know if it was Dr. Slominski or one of them that helped treat them. But after the treatment, after they were cured, the marks,
Scars.
the scars remain on the face. And the principal told the boy, he was not paying attention, in the schoolhouse, every time I look at your mother, I don't want to eat smoker. There was big laughter in the school. But I know that changed that young man's life.
Yeah.
He wasn't able to deal with it. And it was so easy for teachers then to sacrifice children because of who they were.
Yeah, and who the parent was.
I've heard this story from Deborah Charles. She is one of the individuals that lost her piece of land that government gave her. The parliamentary representative from Northwest, I think St. Andrews, he said, took back the land from her. After she paid the surveyor, and she was paying on a monthly age for it. And when she realized they sent her a letter and rescind or take back the land, when she reached to the minister and she found out the minister did that, her question was, how come you could do me that? And you and I sat on the same school bench and we were the two poorest in the class. She couldn't believe that the minister could have taken back the land from her because the village they was going in was not considered a poor village. They had some heavyweight names, some people who you would be consider in the top economic echelon of the community. So the minister said to her, the parliamentary representative for St. Andrews Northwest. I did not realize it was you. I did not realize it. She took back the land from that individual. She had been elevated to a new class because of her academic achievement. But that woman did not rise. The propagation of classism in our country will have serious social.
And just to say, senior, most times that case you just cited, it only happens because one person got the opportunity, the other one didn't get it.
One person got the opportunity. The minister's father was the deciding factor.
Okay.
Her father was the deciding factor. Whereas Deborah Charles, her relatives died in the Great Fire. 3 of them died one time in the Great Fire.
So she became question mark was
And
her name.
her parents did not rise from the ghetto.
Nah.
So she took back the land from her. That is why We in Grenada have to worry.
About the policy.
The policy, when government propagate class, you see, these things are always in your society. But if the government has it as a policy, then it serves as a catalyst for it to rise. It will
Because
be difficult to suppress it.
in the first couple months of this government, really, persons in Carrico again, when the information was brought to the legal advisor to government, the attorney general, it was like a big joke.
Yes, she laughed. She felt that these people is nothing. You see, I could well identify with that, In Tong Long, I remember when some people used to refer to us as stinking Gayites. It was a common term to call people cadavers, illiterates. They find people say, of course, they know they're illiterates. That in those days, people used to say, I'm not well lettered.
Yeah.
They have found a palatable, sophisticated way to say they can't read and write. They can't pick up the name if they see it passing.
They used to refer to them as they born big.
Yeah, they would say, I'm not well lettered. Whereas the other people used to refer to them, you illiterate, you cadaver.
You know what boggles me or boggles my mind about this present government and the policy? The Prime Minister knows different, Because in one of his discussion he says the government's supposed to fight for those people. But what we've seen with the policies of the government is a turnaround, the fighting against these people. Because when you could watch these people and take 150 from the elderly, the less fortunate and the unfortunate children, it tells you the policy something ought to be wrong. When you could speak of the housing situation and say the past administration did nothing for housing and make reference of the Chinese houses and to attach criminality to the fact that persons did not get a house. And almost 3 years on, nobody get a house, and then you have to pay 75,000 thereabouts for the same house. This policy cannot be a right one. When you speak to making everybody permanent as soon as and in 12 months, and then you come in and make excuse now about functional review and all other issues and all other semantics to not doing it, that policy cannot be right, senior. And so when we come here, we don't come to beat up on anybody, but we just come to question the policies of this government as we see it. And when you speak to this economic situation and everything you hinge your argument now on burial, and you're saying to persons all you're walking, all you could buy water, that cannot be a right policy, senior. And what burial has done, senior, in a realistic reality, it exposed the people in Carrico. Because for a very, very long time, we used to see Carrico people have money. That was the narrative being branded about, don't worry, man, Carrico have plenty money. So, senior, the question is, if that is true, why they don't fix in a place and they're depending on the government to help them? And the same government making all kind of simmy-dimmy. So that cannot be a right policy, senior. So anyhow you take it in the context of politics, you take it in the context of humanity,
Economics.
you take it in the context of economics. This is not a good policy.
They feel they're qualified to ride on the backs of others.
And when you boasting of an achievement of paying retroactive pension, and the general population telling you But we don't feel that because the persons or most of the persons who receive this payment has been accustomed to living comfortable. So that payment is not one that will become disposable income in the community. You cannot boast and say that is a good policy. When you pay to the teachers money, you know they don't work for you being a legal brain. And now, when you have problems in meeting payment of salaries for teachers, and your excuse is it used to happen 30 years ago, that can never be a good policy. See? So the policy of this government to continue to blame others when you expose them is not a policy for the development of this country.
It's
So
definitely.
whether we vote green or yellow, we have to examine the policy next time we have to make that decision.
But look at the policy of the government, how conservative they are in providing information for people. And they're going way out of bounds to prevent people from getting information.
And the other thing I want to mention, senior, during the campaign, persons said to this government, all you does pay late. All you does have problem with money. And blessed assurance was given. And the same thing that the blessed assurance was given is being violated now. Even the budget, senior, which might be read, it could be in March. So we don't expect from now to maybe April, May to see any capital projects or projection. That cannot be a good policy, senior. Whether we like the prime minister or we don't like the prime minister, that is not a good policy. Added to the fact that they keep saying burial, 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 we can service the debt. Well, my advice, senior, is to do what the last government did, although they say the government did nothing. The last government got debt forgiveness. So if the situation is that bleak with burial, why not seek debt forgiveness? Just putting it back, hoping to kick the football down the road. Somebody got to play with it. That cannot be a policy pushing it on. Senior, you have to face issues head on. So the whole makeup and policies of this government is not giving the population much confidence. And everything in Grenada now is laced with the perception or real corruption. And the
The-
prime minister is not defending corruption. He's saying others used to do it.
Well, I consider that all governments in the past, all governments try to minimize or reduce the incidence of corruption. This government seems to have a policy that opened the door to corruption. Why do I say that? The government had the issue of contract. No more than $15,000 could be given to given as contract to a
Without
minister.
bidding.
People argued that a minister have too much power and they go to give their friends. So the government decide no more than $15,000, and the Ministry of Communication officers there have to be involved in etc. This government changed it to $100,000. The government legislate discipline. I think perhaps it's only Grenada in the Caribbean. I know some countries, Jamaica and others, put it, but they didn't legislate it. They legislated discipline and ensure that you're going to have only $15,000 no more. And what percentage must be to manage the government the policy the economic policy the budget what percentage must go
Yeah.
to
Fiscal resilience,
physical
yeah.
resilience. In addition to that, the 1973 regulations for the GDB Bank, the government didn't even waste time. The government could have gone into parliament and changed the regulation.
Yes.
They flaunted the law.
With impunity.
So the policy of this corrupt policy of the government going to have a rippling effect on the ground.
Yeah.
If the priest could play, who is me? You see what is going on in National Lottery?
Well, this one is one that restorative justice in full flow. If you do your research, senior, and the chairman of the board, his relationship to the prime minister, and the dealings prior to the election, you will realize restorative justice in full flight, which is opening up the door wide for corruption and corrupt practices. And the prime minister knows, because there was a particular minister who raised the issue. Information suggests he gave the minister blessed assurance that he and the attorney general will look into it. Information suggests when the same minister say, well, you tell me you will do something but not us doing, he say you don't trust the man. You lose confidence and trust and the man make him go. So he legitimizing corruption. And what is sad, senior? The moral champion, good governance integrity, sits there and co-sign to this nonsense. That is my biggest takeaway from that. A man who knew all that was wrong during the NNP time and continues to speak on the NNP. And the corruption is right there, so. And he's saying nothing. Case in point, the CBI. When you heard that gentleman spoke about the CBI before 2022, the CBI was like the devil incarnate to him. Now he is praising the CBI. So the policy of even flip-flopping by the champions of morality is not a good policy, senior. And that is why when I speak of this government, I speak of the policies and not individuals. The things they are doing.
We have to be very careful as a people because what we see in the pattern, the unconventional things that are done, the policy of the government going to have a rippling effect. Because if the government is blatantly flaunting laws for the purpose of benefiting the members, if the government is establishing individuals on boards that seems to be preoccupied with enriching the coffers,
They're fooling their boots.
what is going to happen? You're going to find us the rippling effect on the ground. Public officers going to watch these things and maybe say, "Me time come."
Yeah, if they're doing it, I could do it.
And the government is going to continue to set up boards that believe it is their time to see if they could.
And that is what concerned me most in terms of the hospital situation. Because the minister is the one responsible for appointing people on the boards. I hope that don't become another cash cow.
Well, obviously it will be at the detriments of the poor of the poor.
And then the policy of this government of untruth, senior, that is something we must spend a minute on. The ability of this government to look straight in the face of Grenadians. The Samoa Agreement, this latest oil thing, the thing with the Polish gentleman, faith organization, and the oil documentation senior. And the prime minister is the chief in speaking on truth. That cannot be a good policy, senior.
Well, it never was. The government had a policy, and if we take it under the heading of information is based upon need to know, over the last 10 years of the um, previous NNP government, they were very liberal with information. They provided information in through press conferences after every cabinet meeting. The ministers did not hesitate to hold discussion with the press. Now we have a government that talk about information is based upon need to know, but they deliberately hiding information, and I believe that they hiding the information to help to facilitate the
Corruption.
corrupt practices.
Because case in point, the GDB, at first, when the news broke out, Andy Williams, they denied, they say, oh, propaganda thing. Then we get to know is that. And then here other ministers again. Because even if we know they shouldn't take the money, but they believe they justify to take the money, why do say? Why keep that information? If you're saying you don't see nothing wrong, why is the reason for not being truthful?
Even directors on the board, you borrow from yourself. You and your girlfriend signing check to you. You know, these things open the door to corruption. When you open the door to corruption, man is an imperfect being.
Definitely.
We're not perfect. And if there are not rules, they're not guiding rules and regulation for us to function, we could lose it because we could get attracted to money, wealth, luxurious living. And you see all these things as characteristic of this government. The government is withholding information, raiding financial institutions, and basically living above their means at the expense of the people. We hear rumors and speculation that one minister traveled 24 times in 23 months, run up hotel bill in excess of 30,000 US, and government pay for it.
And you're hearing ministers again, senior, who give information on election time as being unemployed. And not even 3 years into the tenure, you're hearing about $600,000 in their account.
In the account.
This thing cannot be right.
How could it be right? You're practically diluting the significance of hard work.
And at the same time, senior, the low income bracket people whose economic reality is not good continues to cry. What is going on? So they're eating from the table, they're eating the main course. They still bending down and pick up the crumbs and eat. What is going on? No trickle down effect. With all the talk about you hearing CBI money and all this thing, but the ordinary man continues to see that the worst they've been in a very long time. So who fooling who? What is the policy? Is the policy really restorative justice? So let we fool we boot, so come what may we set. Or they just don't care.
That policy have rippling effect in the society. It could make people get very corrupt in the society. It could create robbery in the society because the get rich quick syndrome. The government claim you can't be politician if you don't have money.
Yeah.
And that is so far from the truth because individuals that get involved in politics get involved to help to change circumstances. Not in Grenada, Jamaica, John Compton in St. Lucia, Chubalira, Boss Butler spent 8 years in jail. Um, guys in Africa is Mandela,
Yeah. 27 years
27 years,
in
and he was
prison.
a lawyer. Mandela could have ignored that if what the prime minister is saying, if there is any truth in it. Mandela didn't go in it for money.
Nope.
He went in to change circumstances. Kit Mitchell didn't come down here and join politics for money. Michael Baptiste didn't come and join politics for money. Eric Gary came down here and made serious sacrifice. When Eric Gary heard that they arrest Gaston Blaze, Gary leave and come in the police station.
Mhm.
They arrest your deputy, he didn't run, He come out in St. George's and he come up in the police station to find out what Gaston Blaze do. And that is how they arrest him.
And the policy again, we're looking at policies. The Prime Minister, in an attempt to justify paying the ministers all this money, said, and he used um Singapore, he used one of them as a reference, saying if you want good governance, you cannot pay politician on the cheap. That was just one component. The other component was everybody should speak English, the English language. And the third and most important component, the society ought to be inclusive of
Nothing.
people who could make a difference. So they ask him, well, we just get rid of the British. You still want them to say, yes, if they could build the place. But this government is going contrary to that. Any person whom they perceive is not same color or singing the same hymn sheet with them, they victimize them.
But sometimes I wonder if the policy is anything about development.
It can be.
Because some of the things I see that they are doing seems to be counterproductive development, not in the interest of the political party. And they're supposed to know it's going to have serious negative consequences in our society. When you deal with a small society, some of the things easy to see. You're going to have breakdown in the public service. The private sector easy to panic. Grenada have a private sector that is basically a family private sector. It's not an aggressive private sector. Once they don't have confidence in the economy, they're reluctant to invest.
Look at the police force again, senior. Every senior police officer in the administrative realm, or the administrative well, everybody know whose political side is supporting. That cannot be a right policy when you're removing persons whom you believe is not supporting you politically. That in itself again cannot be a good policy. And that is having a rippling effect on the police force, lowering the police force moral. Thank God some persons in the police force decided working for the country, so they're still performing. But if they go to take the government at its own words and action, everybody down in pen too.
Yeah, the government.
And that cannot be in itself a good policy. So these are the things I question senior about the government, and not who going and get rain on the fall on the galvanizer and so on if they want to do that business.
And
But the policies,
this thing is going to take years, The devastating effect when they kill the economy, when they contribute to the economy going in free fall, it takes years to make sacrifice to correct this. It has happened to us
so
before.
here what this policy will do, senior. It will take any other government about 10 years to fix the police force. It will take another government almost 2 terms to fix the economy. It will take any other government about 2 terms to fix the public service and public service commissions and so on. And that in itself is the rippling effect of the policies or the negative policies or bad policies of this administration. So when we speak, we don't speak about time. When election time come, we go campaign. We know we campaign for, but the issue now is the policies of this government and the effect it will have going forward.
Negative effect. Look at the government seems to be in a state of paralysis.
And a panic.
They panic. They don't know what to do. They're whooping without coordination.
Yeah.
So you speak to one minister and they don't know. Or if the minister says something, it has to be overridden
Our
by the
next
prime
minister, when the prime minister speaks, he speaks different.
The minister seems to be even afraid to engage the press.
Yeah, they don't make. Once the prime minister not there, they engage in the press, or they might go on a friendly blogger.
They're afraid to engage the press. And the best of the ministers would not be realized. Whereas the downturn in the economy going to contribute.
Because I firmly believe, as senior, that the prime minister is not listening to Dennis Cornwall and Lennox Sancho. He can be listening to them and the stupid and going on in the economy. And I could guarantee that no other government would follow this administration and say they meet plenty money. You think that will happen?
No, I think they were so excited when they reached it.
Exuberant.
And that's what it makes it so difficult to understand. You met a comfortable platform to build on it. Our people didn't expect you to have all this axe to grind. Why initiate policies that could have years of irreparable damage to the economy? The Minister of the Attorney General and Minister of Labor said we could do serious damage. She felt the word serious was not impactful enough.
You say irreparable.
Irreparable damage. When people lose their job and they believe they was victimized, how do you expect them to deal with it?
But you know that in itself, or that statement by the Attorney General was a watershed moment in the politics of Guyana. Because the country has entered the phase of irreparable damage. So when she said that, we thought she was just speaking. But the fact that she said, let's be straight. She says serious, and she finds serious didn't get the attention. So she said
Serious or
irreparable.
serious, you know.
And that is as a result of the policies of this government. See?
Time flies.
Yes.
We have less than 10 minutes to go, and as we say, we encourage you to subscribe to Studio Galaxy. The number to call is, do you have the phone attached? 410-3030. You could give us a call if you have observe any posting that we want us to read. We will read it on. But Masakal, one of the policies of the government again that seems to baffle the best of us is the housing policy. 100 house unit is sitting in Cargo. It was built for people in the lower income strata. Burial Pass. You have more than 100 persons in Carriacou in the lower income bracket that have had serious damage to their household. The government refused to give them the houses. The government find the house looking too good. Well, what name they call it again?
Condominium.
Condominiums. They find this low income house, we go change in it. And what is rumored on the ground? That the government intends to sell the house to their friends in the diaspora. rather than give the people here who they take back the keys and the people who lost their home.
But
So one have to ask, what would be the impact of this?
but what is sad about the whole issue, the Prime Minister, before he became Prime Minister, said not giving out the house was criminal. So what happened on the road to Damascus that he could call it condominiums and sell it? And that is a policy that is strange and unusual. And then he said, when you see those things happening, ask yourself, who pays for the rally and the big fete? Which again is a strange policy.
Very difficult to understand. But this housing policy is causing hate, division. It come back to the class system. They believe that these people, the houses are more valuable than them. They can't put them in these houses. They're going to put people from the diaspora. I had the opportunity to speak to one woman who worked with government all her life. She applied for a house and was successful, but they tell her she had to pay $70,000. And she's 59 years, going on 60. In fact, she on pre-retirement leave. And when you speak to her, she shed tears. She said, I would never own a house. $70,000. They abandoned the policy of rent to own. And I constantly ask, what the poor of the poor do Deacon and this group? Why this hostile policy? What is the Chinese was he saying in their mind? The Chinese invent diplomacy, so they wouldn't make any public pronouncement. How could this government go and ask countries to assist them with houses?
That is why one of the reasons I believe we're getting less grants.
Well, obviously, if you functioning like that, countries have to ask, why give you grant? Other Caribbean countries must be shocked as we do. You refuse to give the people the houses, and you decide, no, they can't get it. The amount of bitterness, the amount of anger that people will be feeling. Imagine people were given the keys to these houses. Some people were given, yes, you could get a house, but you had to pay $70,000. Well, the bank wouldn't give them loan. And based upon their income, they could never qualify for loan. You know? So this, as we try to, it's not easy to look at the impact and the consequences of government policy within an hour. Time flies.
We might have to continue next.
But we provoke discussion on that.
And that's what we want.
And maybe next week we'll continue on the impact of government policies on the society, looking at some of the other heading areas that we have not looked on. We want to thank Masakal as usual, being on this program, help us to look at government policies.
Yeah.
It's so easy to look at what an individual say when he is speaking out of script. But government policy is the one that's going to dictate what happened.
Or how it happened.
How it happens. And we could look at the impact. Because when government have a policy, he expects it to have a certain impact. And people could question government on what is the impact. As we appeal to people for the government to tell them about the 100 house unit. We appeal to people for government to tell us about why promote classism in our society.
What is the benefit of
What is the benefit of it? We don't know. And this third point, I think, is three that we really look at. The withholding of information.
Yeah.
Government promise to be more liberal with information. They more in fact,
because they challenge the NNP, They say
Yes.
all afraid certain media The Prime Minister says scrutinize me, but as we start to scrutinize him, they call him for. They saying close down radio station. Don't listen.
They wanted to
All the time.
legalize freedom of information.
Yes.
They offer him to jail radio personalities
Yes.
and hang them in the street.
Mm-hmm.
This is a language that comes from senior leadership. Bray donkey bray. They're saying, imagine a minister in parliament and posting on his page who should starve.
And who shouldn't get food.
So we will continue perhaps next week looking at the impact of government policies, part 2. We want to thank you very much for listening to us today again. And our job with the Galaxy Equalizers is to just to provoke discussion. Thank you very much.